And welcome to Habs Unfiltered, episode 218, the post-Christmas episode. I'm your host, Blaine Pudvang. I'm joined now by my co-host, Matt Smith.
Good evening.
Who's delayed because he's in New Brunswick. And we're joined by a special guest, David Landsman.
What's going on, man? It's good to be here.
We're really happy to have you. David is a born and bred Montrealer, a Habs fan since the very beginning of his lifetime. He's an ambassador for the Montreal Canadiens Children's Foundation, also a volunteer of the year back in 2018. And he has a podcast called Shooting the Shit and writes for Habs Eyes on the Prize. So welcome to the show, Dave.
You know what? It's honestly a pleasure to be with you guys today.
This has been couple weeks in the works. I'm glad we got this going.
Absolutely. Thank you, TikTok.
That all for me sharing videos of guys throwing rocks into the water.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
It was sold right away.
Yep. It's for the boys, right?
Absolutely.
So our other co-host, Treg Wilson, is unable to join us as he is somewhere in the ether of Nova Scotia doing family things.
Probably with his shirt off.
God, probably. Look at me lift stuff. Ooh,
he's getting too swole. Regular shirts don't fit him anymore.
Well, he's gonna have to stop shopping at Baby Gap.
He's gonna have to go to like a custom car cover place or something, and make his shirts for him and stuff. Because he's just like, you can't get over those pecs and everything anymore.
Or he can go over to Lift Life and use the code Unfiltered 20 and save himself some money buying new clothing. Not bad. Not bad. All right, so this episode we're going to cover a few different items. The World Juniors, we're going to talk about that a little bit, and we'll talk about the Montreal Canadiens' first game back post-Christmas, the game against Tampa Bay, and some of the controversy surrounding that game. But we'll start with the World Juniors. So Canada just finished, how do I say this nicely? Beating? I mean, it is like they jerseyed Austria.
You know what they did, but it wasn't the typical 11-2 win. but it's honest though. Like you didn't see the Canadian players taking runs at the Austrians. Like, obviously they knew where they were going to win this game. Canada's got much more talented players, and they've got a lot bigger players than some of these Austrians. And you didn't see any, Austrian player with his head down going over the blue line and somebody knocking him on his ass or anything. It was, once the goals started to get scored, the celebration stopped, and it was like, let's go to the bench. I'll do my little tap, and that's it. And the game goes on. And even though the final shots end up being 64-22 for the Canadians, the Austrian goaltender, he hung in there. He made some saves, and I'm not going to say he gave them a chance, because obviously they weren't going to win that game. But it was something that they can look at this game and say, well, we still scored 2 goals against Canada.
They only scored 2 goals in the entire tournament last year. So you know that Austria is looking at this game saying, we got 2 goals on Canada.
It's progression. It really is. And it would have been nice to see Bedard get the 5th goal, and good on him for scoring the 4. This was his opportunity to do so, though, because you're not going to see, more than likely, you're not going to see somebody score 4 or more against the Germans, and you're definitely not going to see it against the Finns. Mm-hmm. So usually once a year, you get that one team that is so far below what your team is performance-wise, and you've got that chance to break a record. But I don't think it's going to happen anymore. But good on Bedard, and it was a very good game for him, and he's really got people talking about next year's draft, and people aren't talking as much about Shane Wright.
It gives him also the time to just be able to showcase himself, like you said, and it also makes him, gain the confidence moving forward.
Absolutely.
This was
Absolutely.
definitely a confidence boost for him and his ego, and also for the team itself.
Absolutely. Like they've already been talking about this kid for a while and saying that he's likely going to be the number one pick. And I think that he's, against the U Sports, he really just pushed his way onto the team. And then, the game against the Czechs and now the game against Austria, he's really, in my opinion, so far, he's cemented himself as the number one pick. I'm not going to say Michkov's going to be a pushover by any means, but whoever's picking 1-2 in that draft is going to come out with more than likely a franchise player.
Well, I know a lot of Habs fans are hoping that the Canadians will be picking at 1-2 in the next draft, but I don't know if they're really prepared for 2 years of what we're living through right now.
I'm hoping. I'm not even happy about this year, but if they can get a consolation prize as a top 5 pick and draft correctly and turn that player into a future, top 4 defenseman or a future top 6 forward, I think that would be a win.
Yeah, but you also have to add on the top 5 draft pick that they can progress and that they can actually keep and hold on
to. Absolutely.
Let's not forget about Kotkaniemi. He was a rising star.
Yeah.
And we thought highly of him, and then
Kotkaniemi was thought highly of, but that was a year they drafted for need.
Yeah.
If they drafted based on skill, if they drafted based on projection, etc., he likely wouldn't have been picked then, but they drafted for need. And we know where he ended up now, and he's one of the more higher paid players in the league, and I'll just leave it at that.
It's a little bit absurd.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's no shortage of Montreal Canadiens prospects at this World Juniors. The Canadians have 3. 2 of them are captains. One's Team Canada's captain, Caden Gooley, Jan Misak with Czechia. I had to catch myself there because they changed their name just before the tournament.
We can still say the Czech Republic.
Yeah, but they identify as Czechia.
They just identify as.
That's right. And I want to respect that because it's a beautiful country and, they deserve it. Also, the third prospect is with Finland, and that's Oliver Kapanen, who's their second line center at the moment. So why don't we go over a little bit about them? So, David, you're the guest. We're going to give you the floor.
Oh, so much pressure.
Give us your 2 cents on what you've seen from these prospects so far.
Misak was always developing so well that they were saying that he's going to be a top 6 forward in the years to come. And the sooner he gets developed, the sooner he gets brought into Laval to develop his game to bring up to the Montreal Canadiens roster, the better. And that would be a huge boost to them because they need someone of his caliber, his speed, his size, his offensive prow. These are things that the Habs really desperately need this year. We know this because we know how bad the Habs have been this year. As for Caden Gooley, also we have Shea Weber, who is still active, but we know he's not. And then you have the prospect pool in the defense that is just a revolving door of who's going to be our 6D, who's going to be our 7th. So having someone of Caden Gooley's skill also will help Laval and then help Montreal eventually because he's got those skills that we need as well on the back end. Because
do you think with the depth that the Canadians currently are lacking on defense, do you believe that they're going to try to fast track Gooley into the league next year?
Unfortunately, yeah. I know that they've done this in the past with players. People say and speculate and still to this day say about Caulfield, did we fast track him too fast? He joined the team and, he played 2 games with Laval before he was called up. And then he played with 15 different teams last year. It was hard to keep track of where he wasn't. But, and then this year, right now, he's been a disappointment. I hate to say it. So I think they will do the same with Gooley. And I just hope that for him, he can actually manage it because it's not easy to come into a team like that. It's also, especially when you're so young, to be just thrown. And these are people that are great players, but they're not the levels of Ovechkin and Crosby, who are not, or McDavid, who are going to be phenoms right away off the gate.
And I know this is a little bit off topic from obviously covering the junior guys, but this kind of gets into another question. What about if they are able to sign Jordan Harris? Do you believe that Gouli still gets pushed up into the NHL roster?
That's a bit more questionable. That's a bit more of a teeter-totter. It's a gamble with both to see how fast you can put them into the lineup. I think only time will tell in that department, though.
I think with the new management, however, Gorton's not known for being someone who rushes the prospects that he has brought in. You know, look what he did with the Rangers as a GM, and he took his time with the vast majority of his prospects. And in Caulfield's case, would he even be on the roster right now if it wasn't for the fact that they were basically calling up Trois-Rivières Lyon up into the taxi squad
That's
with,
true.
you know, like Hillis. They're so depleted that they're bringing up ECHLers to help the taxi squad. So if they hadn't been so banged up and so depleted, I don't know if Caulfield would be in the roster right now.
Yeah. And I kind of feel bad for Trois-Rivières because they've been playing some really good hockey. And now all of a sudden they just signed 7 players just so they can kind of keep their head above water.
Well, they have the benefit of that NALH in Quebec.
Yeah.
So a lot of tough guys to pick from.
Yeah.
Now, back to the World Juniors and back onto the Habs prospects. What about Kapanen, David? What have you seen anything you like from him?
Honestly, I can't say I have seen much of him, but that's only because I haven't been watching too much of the World Juniors.
Yeah.
But, you know, having a top 6 forward, especially at the center position, is definitely something to look forward to for the Habs. Because that's something like the ongoing issue of when will we get that center that we need? And yes, okay, we have Suzuki right now at center, but he can also play at the wing if we need to. So I don't know. Honestly, I'd be honest with you today. I don't know enough about Kapanen moving forward, but I hope he's good.
He seems to be pretty good so far. I mean, I don't see him being a big producer or a center when he gets to the NHL. I see him more of a third line winger, kind of in the Lehkonen mold.
Okay.
With a better shot. So if he got the same chance as Lehkonen has, he'd get a lot more goals, I think. maybe even 20.
Such a bad rep.
that poor guy, he is snake bitten, something fierce.
Oh my god. Since it's like his rookie year and then the constant decline, but he always comes up clutch and you're just like, where was that during the season? Like last year when he scored the clinching goal against Vegas, you're just like, where the fuck was that all year?
How the hell did he hit the net?
Seriously.
It's so heartbreaking though, when you think about how many goals the guy has. He works so hard to create the chances. And if he would just score on 1/10 of them, he'd be a 50-goal scorer.
Yeah, he would be. But also he'd have to get the minutes. He'd also have to get the time. You know, I don't think he fits into Ducharme's mold, and that's why there's a lot of controversies if he'll stick around with Montreal. You know, he's getting these 1-year contracts for that. It's like,
yeah. Well, it's going to be debatable to see if either one or with the Canadians come next year.
I think Ducharme should be done a long time ago, but hey, I'm not saying that.
I am.
Potentially.
I'm saying it.
Yeah.
I love Dom. He won a Memorial Cup for us here in Halifax. But I don't think he's the right fit for the Canadians.
Not with the current makeup of the team. And even going into this year when everybody was healthy, which still hasn't happened this year. Yeah. He's not his game plans and his mindset and how he coaches and even the staff that he has with him doesn't work. We've even seen it with Luke Richardson's the only one has stayed on, other than say Burrows, but Burrows came in late, etc. But everything's changed, right? The defense has changed. The power play is awful. The PK is awful, and it was bad before the injuries happened. Now you bring in you literally have the Laval Rocket playing right now with a few in Canadian sweaters, and it's the coach can only do so much with the players that he has at his disposal.
Yeah, but I don't think Ducharme was actually an NHL coach, to be honest.
He was a good assistant coach.
Yep.
And there's a lot of what ifs right now. If what if it would have been Bouchard instead of Ducharme, etc. There's a lot of people asking that question.
We're going to get into the Montreal Rocket here in a little bit, but we're going to stick with the World Juniors. Yesterday, as we record, it's the 29th of December, and yesterday the USA forfeited their game against Switzerland, meaning Switzerland gets a 1-0 win. The US are isolated, and hopefully they can make their game against Sweden tonight. This has a huge impact for the group standings. Russia losing their opening game to Sweden meant that the US and Russia were going to be head to head on trying to get back to that top spot. With the US forfeit, that opens the door for Russia. But now with Sweden if Sweden gets a forfeit tonight, they're going to get the top seed.
Yeah.
However, if the US show up and win, Group B is a wide open pool now.
It is. And I kind of feel bad for the Slovakians because honestly, they got into penalty trouble against the US. But the last part of that, like the third period, they were the better team, and they were a better team against Sweden. And it just so happened that the Swedish goaltender stood on his head, made 45 plus saves. And now you're gifting Switzerland a win, right? And that now you got Slovakia down in fifth place, and they've got one of the better teams they've had in years.
Yeah.
So they've got to come out now and they've got to beat the Russians, or they've got to beat the hell out of Switzerland or whatever, and hope that the Swiss don't pick up another point. Because if they do, there's no relegation this year. But did you really expect Slovakia to finish fifth in that group?
Not really.
So, and now today, if you want me to
go for it.
Come up with the big news. Czechia, their game has been canceled against Finland. That was scheduled for 3:30 Eastern time today. And yes, it was 3:30 Eastern today. It was supposed to be against the Finns, and now that game is a forfeiture. Finland gets Finland's gonna be given a 1-0 win. It counts as a win. And now Czechia is 0-1-2, and they're going to be another team that's going to be looking for a win against Austria or a win against Germany or whatever. Or actually, no, they already lost to Germany. So they're going to be a team that's going to now have to beat the hell out of Austria to really do anything.
I think they can.
I think if you put yourself against Austria, you have any chance.
You should. But right now they're running into a scheduling conflict because their game tomorrow is an earlier game, and there needs to be a 24-hour period between tests. And they're looking the way that it is right now. If they is to reschedule the game and not cancel it,
they'll probably have to adjust the later game as well. So they'll probably have to move back or swap the two games, make the later game the early game and their game the later game.
Yeah.
So
because they need to have 2 negative tests within 24 hours to exit the hotel room quarantine. And if it happens that you are positive, even though possibly your roommate isn't, yourself and your roommate are not able to play in the game.
So basically, if you're a World Junior fan, check the news at noon every single day to see when the games are actually being played.
That's right.
But
a lot of people kind of saw this coming. It's obviously a first for us that, we haven't really seen anything like this before. But hopefully this tournament can continue and these players can stay healthy. As if not, how many games are going to have to be forfeited before somebody steps in and said, enough's enough?
That kind of brings me to a point that I was going to make in a future show, but with David here, who's covered women's hockey as well, brings up a really good point. The World Juniors for the men's under 20 carrying on apparently no problem. They have no issue with these measures that they've put into place. but the women's tournament that was supposed to start in January canceled. Why?
Do you want my honest opinion? Just 2 letters. BS. Bullshit. Like, I mean, come on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, the women can be just as careful as the men, and the men can be just as careful as the women. And, you know, with the with Omicron variant, with COVID and everything, it's anybody's game. Anyone can turn sick and within the blink of an eye. So to have the women's canceled, U18 tournament canceled, like a couple, this is supposed to happen now, as well as the women's tournament. It's so annoying, and it just makes me so angry, because like these are players, like the rivalry series 2 games. What really make me even more, like my skin even boil even more, one of those games was supposed to be in Edmonton, right? One of the rivalry series games was supposed to be in Edmonton, was canceled because of COVID. But meanwhile, the men's can play a fucking world tournament with like 10 teams, not just 2, 10. It's really, it's just not a fair game.
Yeah.
The equality.
I honestly think it's because of money. The World Juniors men's brings in way more money, so they pushed it.
And even Luke Tardif, even when he released a statement, which I have up here, I'll read in a few minutes. He was the same way. There's a section in that says that it's about money.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I get that, but it's still like, if you want to grow the game, you know, women's hockey players are freaking good. Like,
they're highly skilled. Absolutely.
When you watch them, you know, so just to have them not be able to showcase themselves and like grow the game that has been so predominantly the big 3 words for women's hockey, it's really upsetting, man. Like, it's sad. You know, come the Olympics, these are going to be like the women's hockey division. There's going to be girls watching being like, I want to be like Marie-Philippe Poulin. I want to be like Hillary Knight.
Absolutely.
So, you know, I went to one of the rivalry series games. I went to the game in Kingston, and, you know, it was a pretty packed house of like, it was a small arena. Leon Center was 5,700 capacity, but it was full. And I was surrounded by kids who were idolizing these players. And it was just like, made me so happy to see, because like I also know like a good chunk of the women's hockey players for Team Canada, and to see their faces light up equally was amazing.
100%. I have the statement here, and if I can, I'll just read it off really quick. So this is the statement from IIHF President Luke Tardif when he was questioned about the cancellation of the tournament, if it's a gender issue, etc. So this is what he said. This is not a gender issue. This is a COVID-19 issue. I would ask in turn, how is it fair to postpone all the time the top divisions and always to simply cancel the lower divisions? Those cancellations have affected 6 tournaments, not just one, including 2 men's under 20 events that critics seem to conveniently forget. He makes a point there. There's a lot of people aren't talking about the other divisions that have been affected by this.
It was a Division 3 tournament they canceled.
That's right. And there's some Division 3, but this thing is,
in
these
China,
guys are but and in Mexico and a couple other countries. However, staying on topic with that, these are people that are also trying to play hockey, and they're trying to move up to the higher divisions and everything like that, right? So in a normal season, we are not canceling anything. The IIHF is not in the business of canceling tournaments. We are here to play tournaments. We are battling circumstances that are out of our control. And to be perfectly honest, we have to think of the future too. Here's the money part. Is there an economic incentive to host the men's world championship and the world juniors every year, no matter what? Absolutely. But people misunderstand that this is because we favor men's hockey over women's, which is completely false. The revenue generated from these 2 events enables our federation to survive and support the operation of all other IIHF World Hockey events. So if I ever have to make an effort to host a specific tournament to ensure the survival of other events, then it is my responsibility as IIHF president to do this. The IIHF has run a women's hockey program since 1990 and was instrumental in the integration of women's hockey into the Olympic program of 1992. Our women's hockey championship program has grown to encompass over 12 women's senior and under 18 tournaments and include the participation of 44 of our 82 members national associations. Our commitment to women's hockey is longstanding, legitimate, and substantial. I am I and the new IIHF Council believe in women's hockey. We are committed to investing in women's hockey now and into the future. We empathize with the players and the fans of our game, and we look forward to returning to a full championship program. So that was IIHF President Luke Tardif. So lots to say there. Economics come up. The support of the game is there. But we knew that that's what they were going to say.
Money.
Kind of a blank statement. A lot of people aren't taking it well. I'm not surprised they're not taking it well. But the economic side is what is really driving this. People are going to want to see, and I'm not, punching down at women's hockey or anything like that, but the economic piece does make a lot of sense. People are watching these tournaments, looking at the players that have been drafted, the players that are going to be drafted. There's NHL influence. There's this, and they're absolutely right.
Well, I have no problem with them running the tournament so that they can make their money. But why is it that they can't just run one of the other tournaments, make a little bit more money, and then just prove to the world that it's not just about sex?
And that's the way it should be. That is 100%. Right. That's the 100% the way it should be. But unfortunately, we don't make the decisions.
Yeah. Well, you can say also it's about the money, but it's not about the money. Yeah. When there's fans in the stands, I get it. You want to have you want to showcase and you want to make the money because tickets are expensive. Yep. You want to fill your arena. You want to generate the revenue. But when there's no fans, people are going to be saying, I'm going to buy a Connor Bedard jersey for $150.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's it. There's no it's I want to watch TV. Okay, it gives you good ratings for TSN, for Sportsnet, all that. That's it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. And I think the outcry throughout the community, not just through the women's hockey community, but a lot of NHLers, a lot of people in media, etc. A lot of people are talking about this. And I think it's going to kind of put the foot on the neck of future events to say people want to see these women play, and they want to see these young women play, and they have just as much right as everybody else does to showcase their skills.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I used to cover the CWHL for a while too, right? And when there was the Canada Montreal, and I used to go to watch their games quite religiously. I'd watch with my wife. She was doing her job with the team. I was doing my job covering the team. And I've known some of these girls since they were 17, 18.
Yep.
And when they started saying we're going to start paying the players, do you remember what the pay stipends were? They're going to get paid between $2,000 and $10,000 a season, not a night, not a week, not a month, a season. You play 28 games, you hustle, you go to practice, you got to supply your own equipment.
Yeah.
$300 sticks, they snap like twigs. You got to buy. It's you who's buying it. It's not. You're not sponsored by Bauer. That's going to say, "Oh, we're going to give you a ticket." You have a few people you got Natalie Spooner and some of those players that were sponsored, but they were the lucky ones.
That's right.
Anne-Sophie Bettet. I don't know if you guys know who she is.
This is the thing. The only way that you're going to see these women get to that level of the sponsorship and everything is that for them to actually play hockey.
Exposure.
Right. Exposure. Right.
They need exposure. And unfortunately, with this day and age, you don't get it.
Yeah.
It's just it's kind of sad, I remember talking with Anne-Sophie Bettet, I was talking. She and I have known each other since she was 18 and I was 19, and I've known her since she was CEGEP to university to the Montreal level, and she was a financial advisor Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. She'd finish her day on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5. She'd drive over to the rink, finishing a full day, changing from her work outfit to her hockey uniform, practice for 2 hours, then go home, and then maybe retreat for a little bit of relaxation before going right back to sleep and going back to work. Yeah. And then playing between 1 and 3 games on the weekend.
Yeah.
And she was paid about $10,000 for the year for that. It's kind of messed up in so many ways.
Yeah, I agree.
But
sounds like my life, except I don't make $2,000 to $10,000.
Pretty much.
But no, that's the thing. Like, how are you going to grow the game internationally if we're not showcasing the talent that's there now? Like, I understand the COVID regulations and everything, but at what point do we say, if we can run it in Edmonton with the men's, why can't we just do a bubble and shorten the tournament even for the women's tournament? I know TSN's dying for hockey on their broadcasts. Since they've lost the NHL, they'd love to show that.
Yeah.
Showcase.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, right now, let's go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
No, and I like how like Ontario's reached out and said, well, we'll have it here if need be, if that's possible, but nothing's come of that yet. But I understand, but more than likely that it's going to be canceled, and we'll see what happens next year. But then that sucks for the players that have worked that hard to make this team that are now going to age out, and they're not going to be able to be on that team next year.
Exactly.
Sad but true.
On that sad note, we'll move on to the next sad note, which is the Montreal Rocket.
Laval Canadians, don't you mean?
But before we do, a word from our sponsor, Boxing Rock Brewing Company's Puck Off Beer. According to local folklore, Boxing Rock is where bickering seamen were left by their captain to sort out their differences. The choice, box until one could return to the ship or shake hands and share a beer. Either way, there are only a few short hours until high tide. We say drink up. Boxing Rock Puck Off Lagered Ale. If you are 19 and over and live in Nova Scotia, simply follow Habs Unfiltered on any of the social media sites. Share a story as to why you like our show, why you enjoy beer, and you may win yourself a free 12-pack of Boxing Rock Puck Off Lagered Ale. So that's the good news. And now the bad news.
And I've got some worse news.
Oh, God.
Breaking news in Montreal. Forward Paul Byron and goaltender Caden Primo both placed on the COVID-19 protocol list as of today.
Son of a bitch.
Primo was just called up yesterday.
That's right. So they joined Dauphin, Hoffman, Lehkonen, Toffoli, who was already injured, Sherratt Edmondson, who was already injured, Petrie, Weidman, Jake Allen, and goaltending coach Eric Raymond, who are in COVID protocol.
Oh, my God. So that means McNiven is finally going to get his call up to the Montreal Canadiens.
It's looking that way.
Because he's on the taxi squad.
Yeah. Either that or they just, Brandon Baddock's a pretty big boy. Just put pads on him and just put him there and see what happens.
Actually, I think he has played in net a couple times professionally.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Or at least punched a goalie. One or the other.
Yeah. So as I said, it's been a tough season, and I've brought this up multiple times. We haven't seen this team at full health all year. And every time it seems like it's going to happen, you lose somebody else. And this is a far cry of what the roster looked like last year. And yeah, you look at Cap Friendly and they've got a pretty good team on paper, but if most of them are mending injuries, you can only do so much with what you got on the ice.
I just want to put this out there. If they're looking for a 46-year-old winger who can take a punch, I'm available.
I can't skate backwards, but I live near the Bell Center. Sack.
Done deal.
Oh my God.
All right. So it just gets better and better for the Montreal Lions at this point.
Yeah.
So the Canadiens played last night. So if you were a Team Canada Montreal Canadiens fan, you had a busy night last night with Canada playing Austria, the Canadiens playing Tampa Bay. If you watched the Montreal Tampa Bay game, then you would have seen a Canadiens team who actually played a strong, structured game, which is very out of the usual norm for the Canadiens this season. This is supposed to be a game that Tampa should have absolutely pummeled the Canadiens. I mean, like you just rhymed off a half dozen, what about almost a dozen names, and that's about
even
2/3 of the injury
yeah.
list.
Yeah, that's not even the injured players. Yeah.
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 So
everybody's kind of forgot about them.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Josh Anderson, Dvorak, Carey Price,
Keep going.
Shea Weber, et cetera, right?
So it's not like the Canadians are playing for a playoff spot at this point. It's more for pride. It's more for setting themselves up in the long run. I mean, these are guys fighting for jobs, so they're going to have to, they're not going to just roll over and quit.
Well, they're trying to impress the new boss.
That's right.
And we don't even know who the new boss is going to be. As of right now, it's Jeff Gordon. He's the one calling the shots. He's the one running the show. And trade deadline's coming up. And a lot of these guys are going to need new contracts. They've got to, if they want to show that they're going to be there, or they're going to be there next season, or be a part of the future, and they've got to come out and they got to play. And last night they actually did so. Or
catch the eye of another GM from another organization.
Yep.
100%. Well, it's also like we were talking about the women's game, but it's also a big showcase for these guys. And the World Juniors. It's a showcase for the young guys now.
Yeah.
We got players like RV Bernard, who has never played in the NHL before, suits up, scores his first NHL goal.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
100%. Cory Schooneman.
Yeah.
And he got his first assist.
Yeah.
You got in a lot of the young guys who are starting to show what they're made of, and that show that they're good to stay in Laval, to grow their game, to come up to Montreal eventually.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the young guys all played extremely well. I mean, Schooneman, he had the assist on that goal, but for the most part through the night, you barely noticed him. And for him, that's a good thing. That means he's not making mistakes. He was able to control what he can control. The game around him wasn't getting out of control for him. It wasn't, they weren't overpowering him. So that's a good sign. RHP, Gallagher, he was doing exactly what he was doing in Laval. He was going to the net hard. He was wreaking havoc. He was a little cannonball going in there. And the goal he scored wasn't, hey, the puck went off the back of my leg and then in. No, he fought for position in front of the net, and he tipped top shelf a pass from the corner. So these are good signs. Caulfield even had a great game. He set up the goal for Kyle Clagg's first NHL goal with a nice cross ice feed. All good signs. So if they can go through the season like this and play this way, even if they don't win, that's what we need to see from them.
Yeah. The unfortunate part that I saw, though, when I watched the highlights and kind of watched a Cole's Notes version of the game, even though Harvey Pinard scored and he played with some tenacity, that's kind of given that Gallagher nickname, he played the least at anybody on the ice. And
are we surprised?
Right. And somebody like Paling, who they're trying to push up the lineup as well, he played less than a guy like Paquette, who did finally get his first point with the Canadians last night.
Damn time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had this discussion with someone yesterday about Paquette versus Paling and the younger guys. And the discussion about the ice time was, well, Paquette plays the penalty kill.
Yeah.
But why does he do? And I asked, well, why? Well, if he's dressed, he may as well play. And I'm like, yeah, that's not a ringing endorsement.
That's right.
To play someone above one of the younger guys who are actually playing well.
Right. He was 30% on faceoffs last night. So it's not like you can say, you like to have a player, you like to have your third or fourth line center be like the shit when it comes to winning faceoffs. He's not that. It's not the case with him. Right. Do you remember the days of like Jeff Halpern going out there and winning faceoffs, or when Konopka was in the Islanders or something like that? Like those were their roles. They were out there. They were defensive centers. That's what they did.
Manny Malhotra,
right? Exactly. They honed their game off of doing those kind of things. And Paquette is not that. Like I think a lot of people, saw him come in, and maybe the Canadians organization were like, oh, maybe he's going to be the pocket rocket, but Not happening.
Oh, you went there.
I went there. It was
Oh.
awful. It was awful. It was awful, but I went there just like
-1.
just like his play this season.
Minus 13.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you know what the thing is? I think he was brought in solely because of the fact that his name is Paquette. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
he hasn't contributed enough to really turn heads or anything. But you know, you do look at the positives. Also, you guys were talking about the fact that they had a good game despite the loss.
Yep.
They put up 4 goals.
They did.
Also, this year has been really hard to do.
Yeah.
You know, they've been
and a lot of people are going to look at it and say it's because, you know, it's Maxim Legacy that was playing in net, but Tampa still had the majority of their players out on the ice, including Braden Point, who came back and obviously had to score a couple goals in the win.
He looked amazing.
But you look at their lineup: Killorn, Point, Stamkos, Palat, Cory Perry, Pat Maroon, Hedman, McDonough, Bogosian, etc. Like these are everyday NHL players.
And also they also have a lot of their team from last year's cup run.
Yeah, 100%.
And their cup win still there. And one of the few new faces is Cory Perry, who was with us and now has researched his career. I mean, I'm not saying he's the best of the best, but for a guy who's 36 and still contributing as well as he is, damn. Wow.
And it's kind
He's
of
a clutch
funny,
player too.
He scored,
Absolutely.
Obviously he scored another clutch goal against the Canadiens last night. And everyone kind of made the joke like, oh, well, maybe Montreal should have re-signed him. And it's like, well, I'm sure if they could have, they would have.
Yeah. But they went for Cedric Paquette instead.
That's right. Right. So
I mean, that's a win.
Yeah, and back to the legacy and being in net for Tampa Bay. How many times have the Canadians been burned by a 7th string Quebec-born goaltender who just becomes a Vezina Trophy winner in that game?
Yeah,
they finally broke that streak. So that's, to me, that's a big deal too.
Yeah, but you look at a team like Tampa; they're 21-6-4 against the Canadians, are 7-21-4, and barring some shoddy officiating, the Canadians would,
which we're going to get into.
Yeah, would have won that game.
Which is a great time to segue to that shoddy officiating. So after the game, we're going to directly talk about the disallowed goal that Brendan Gallagher scored.
Yep.
After the game, Ducharme had, I hope he's got a $25,000 paycheck coming to cover this fine, but he said he was clearly pushed towards the goalie. So it's certain that if it wasn't number 11, it's probably a goal.
Yep.
100% true.
And I completely agree with that. And a lot of the media, I know Eric Engels was very vocal last night about the officiating and about some of the calls that were made. Like you can even make a, like that was the worst of the worst is that goal. And the fact that it led to a power play goal on the other end for Tampa was kind of just like the knife in the back and with the twist. You can even question the overtime winner.
Oh yeah, that overtime 36 seconds was like everyone was falling like flies, and it was like, where's the tripping call? I'm confused.
Palat nailed the defender in the corner. Yeah. Absolutely flattened him. Yeah, and some people thought that maybe that should have been a call. I don't think it was. I think it was a clean hit, but there were plays leading up to that could have easily been called.
Yeah.
Now
it seems like a revolving door, though. Montreal is
but what would the optics have been for, two-time defending Stanley Cup champion team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, to lose to Laval?
Who gives a fuck?
Exactly. But that's what ended up happening last night. The officials called the game to make the team that was supposed to win the game, and that's what happened.
It did seem that way. I mean, that high sticking call against Pizzetta being a 4-minute minor was absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
2 for sure, because it was a high stick. Guaranteed 2 minutes. But if you're saying that the day was bleeding after that, I mean, yeah, sure, on the inside, but there was no blood. Like you'd see. Yeah. Again, Gallagher comes into play here. He would take a cross check to the teeth and there'd be no call. And
Yeah.
the excuse is, well, maybe if he were taller.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
But look at some of the calls last year during the playoffs. There's some very popular photos that came out with Perry's visor being covered in blood or Gallagher's face being covered in blood, and there's no call on either of those plays.
but Perry's getting those calls now. Why?
What's the curse of Montreal? Seriously, it is the curse of Montreal. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you know, we haven't had a cup in Montreal in 28 years, and that's fine. But it just seems that every single time Montreal gets like a call maybe in their favor, it's going to be overturned.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember like every time I watch a Habs game and they say we're going to the war room in Toronto, I'm like, well, no, I don't need to, I don't need to watch the next 5 minutes. I know it's a no goal because it's against Montreal and you're going to Toronto.
Yeah.
Even though it's clear that it's a goal.
And this one, I don't know if it's worse, but it's right up there with the other goal that was called back this year with when they used the TSN 5G view to show Gallagher's ass on the blue paint.
Oh yeah, the goal against Ottawa where he
he
touched the goaltender, and then 3.5 to 4 seconds later, giving the goaltender more than enough time to recover and move into position, which he did, and it still got called back.
Yeah, well, it's the
because
Gallagher
that's it's rule number 69.69, the Galley rule. Any goal scored by Gallagher near the crease will be disallowed.
Maybe if Gallagher switched back to 73 when he first came into the league.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, maybe if he switched to that for the rest of the year or something, it's like, oh my God, he's a 40 goal scorer. He has all these goals that are starting to count.
No, I just think it's like Gallagher has got such a bad rep. You know, we were talking about it off the cuff, off the air, that like it just seems every time he's going to take a puck to the face, he's going to take a high stick to the face, and okay, he's 5'8". Okay, we get it, he's short. Whatever, but still, he has gotten so many injuries for stupid reasons, or like getting the bad brunt because like he's the guy who's going to be in the front of the net, like we talked about. He's going to be in that position, but then he's going to play against defenders like Hedman, who's 6'6", Charo, who's 6'9". You know, because you're short and you're in front of the net, he's supposed to sneak in there. But
I'd love to see him get a benefit of the doubt call every now and then, but it just doesn't happen.
But like the thing is, like you have like a guy like Marchand. I hate the guy with the passion, but in Boston he also has the spot parked right in front of the net. But he's 5'9". He's not much bigger.
Yeah.
But he doesn't even get that. But then again, if he does, he licks the other person. But still,
that's right. Yeah.
Or bites them. It's really a bad rep for Gallagher.
That too. Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem that it's totally the calls are being based on his reputation. Because other players can do the exact same thing and the call would go their way. Like the excuse the league gave was that his stick touched Lagacé's leg, and that's why Lagacé couldn't get across. But his stick was where it was because he was pushed into that position. It's like the league saying, well, yeah, he was pushed, but his stick wasn't, so too bad. Like
he didn't move his stick in time.
Yeah, like what? Come on. He wouldn't be where he was if he wasn't being shoved into the goaltender. His stick wouldn't be where it is if he wasn't being shoved in the goalie.
Yeah.
If you're going to shove the forward into your goaltender and the puck goes in, too fucking bad.
Mm-hmm. I couldn't agree more.
But Rule 69.69 states that any goal scored by Gallagher near the crease must be disallowed.
Yeah. So I'm wondering now, you got the Canadiens team or a Laval Rocket team that just pushed Tampa kind of to their brink. And then obviously when Tampa scored, they celebrated like they just won the cup for the third time. Now you've got a team that's got a little bit of momentum, even though they didn't win that game. Now
that's
you're going to get
2 straight games,
right?
Does that sound like Coop?
That Coop Calder.
And now you're going against Carolina, who are equally a pretty good hockey team. I'm just wondering, now that Primo is on COVID protocol, do you go back to back with Montembeault, or do you think McNiven's going to get an opportunity?
David, you're the guest. What do you think?
Man, I've been a very big advocate that I really do not like Sam Montembeault. I also think like the other case, like with Paquette, I think he was brought into Montreal because of his name being Montembeault,
Yep.
because he has not proven anything of substance that says, wow. I think I could have said that he made a glove save that was nice maybe twice this whole year. I mean, I think that McNiven should get a shot. And also moving forward, Carey Price is not going to be in Nets Montreal for a long time to come because of his injuries, his mental health also. So you need to have a backup you can rely on. And Jake Allen, I mean, yeah, he's done well for us. I think his time is running to an end with Montreal. So then it
Very well
becomes
could
Kane
be.
Primo, and then who goes in Laval? And when will McNiven get his shot? He's never had a shot
No,
because he's always been in the background.
that's
to
right. He's
everyone.
been riding the pine for somebody else. Yeah.
Oh my god. Well, no, like even like last year in Laval, it was Kane Primo, Charlie Lindgren, Michael McNiven.
Yeah.
He never really got.
Yeah,
got a
and then
chance.
even when
Now
they
he has
had,
a-
oh my God, what's his name? Who's in New Jersey with the Rangers now? The one that did all the emojis and stuff.
He was that memorable. No one
Yeah.
remembers him.
The only one I can think about the Rangers is Jason Messiah, the guy who's 6'8".
No.
But
I'll look it up. You guys continue to talk.
yeah, no, but I think honestly McNiven is right now like, it's his time to shine.
Keith Kincaid.
Oh, okay, blockade. Yeah.
Right, but Keith Kincaid was the same way. When they sent him down, he was another guy that he had to play kind of second or third option to.
Yeah, and now he's rejuvenated his career in New York.
Yeah.
The thing is that we don't want to have these people like McNiven is not getting any younger.
No. And he was, what? This is a guy that was Ontario goaltender of the year. Nobody kind of knew how Montreal got their hands on him because they already had a very good crop of young goaltenders. And this is a guy that I like to see given the opportunity. If Primo can't go, Montembeault's not going to be with this organization. You never know if McNiven's going to be on his way out after this year. I'm going to say likely will be, but give the guy his opportunity. You look at Fucale, and Fucale was picked X amount of years ago by the Canadiens. He finally got his opportunity to play, picked up a shutout, and it was and then obviously players returned to health and he went back down to Hershey, but it was a feel-good story. He played well, and give McNiven that opportunity. Even if he lets a few in, it is what it is. Like give him the one shot. You're not, Montreal's not going to go on this massive run and all of a sudden win the Stanley Cup. It's not going to happen.
See, Zach got promised a chance at a call-up. They said, look, nothing's guaranteed, but if we run into injury problems, you're going to get the call-up and you're going to get a start.
You know what's funny? I will speak about Fucale. I remember when he got that shutout, and I was turning to my wife. I was like, when's the last time Fucale got a shutout? Did he ever get a shutout in his career? And then I looked it up. I was like, holy shit, that was his first NHL game.
Yeah.
I remember watching him in the preseason in Montreal when he was first called up, then in the second year, and then the third year. And it was just like, man, this guy gets a bad rap. I know you're playing under Carey Price, but still, come on. So McNiven should really get a chance because if anything, it will showcase him for the other teams. We can probably boost his morale for himself and also for the trade value coming in. Look at Charlie Lindgren right now is in St. Louis. He's 5-0. He's got like a 122 goals against, and you're just like,
where the hell was that?
Where was that? Exactly. He did okay with Montreal, but he never really got his chances because he was playing under a tandem where, even if the other one was injured, he wouldn't get his chance.
They would put massive gaps between his starts. He wasn't given the supports that a young goaltender needs. And this is where the new management can selfishly delineate themselves from the old. And I say selfishly as stating that they can set themselves up to look good in the future simply by saying, hey, look, you were kind of messed around a bit under the old management. With us, we're going to give you a chance. Now, obviously, it's because, 3 of your top 4 goaltenders are now on COVID protocol or injured, but it's an opening. So we're going to give you the chance. Here's your NHL game, because after the comments that McNiven made earlier in the season, I thought for sure he'd be traded midpoint through a game at some point.
Yeah, you would think that he would end up somewhere in another organization.
Give him his chance, especially against a team like Carolina. You say, you know what? You want your chance? We're going to give you a chance. We're going to put you up against one of the better teams.
Yep.
Give her. Show us what you got. And someone like McNiven, who's a very, very competitive young man, I think he would show himself well in a game like that.
Yeah.
But even like you said, even if you get shellacked for 8 goals, who cares?
At least he had a game.
That's
right.
At least he had a game. Like I said, Montembeault is not going to be there long term.
Montembeault is like a career AHL backup. Like he's that bad. He's really like, I mean, there's nothing I can say about him.
He's the francophone Scrivens of this rebuild.
Even Scrivens did better than him.
I know.
Like,
honestly, I would sign Scrivens right now.
I think he's a free agent.
He is, yeah. He retired only 3-4 years ago.
Call him back.
Yeah.
Call Vancouver, tell him we want Halak back. It's just like, oh my God, I feel just so bad for these people that get the bad rep. It kind of makes me think of like McCarron.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, wow, I'm blanking on words. Like, we knew that he was not going to be necessarily amazing, but he was a first-round draft pick, but never really got a big chance with Montreal. He'd come in once in a while and you'd be like, oh, cool, you did that. You played 3 minutes. Good for you. Go back to Laval or go back to Hamilton. Go back.
But now he's an NHL regular playing solid minutes.
Exactly. It is literally, there's so many curses with Montreal. It's kind of ridiculous. But
and to finish the show on somewhat of a good note, talking about the curses, Devonte Smith-Pelly is returning to the Canadiens organization, signing a PTO with Laval. He signed this yesterday. He was in literal tears when he left the Canadiens organization the last time. And there was some issues when he left, but now he gets to come back and prove himself with the organization that he truly did enjoy playing for. So here's a golden opportunity for yet another young player. Well, in his case, he's a bit older. He's about 29, 30, but I think this is someone who could, showcase himself well in Laval and then get the call up to Montreal and get NHL games again this year.
Also, he could serve as a mentorship role. I mean, like, it sounds silly to say, but he is a cup winner.
Yes,
he's a cup winner and he's healthy and he's someone who can actually take the players under the wing, kind of like a Cory Perry, a little less, but Cory Perry style leadership role, play the less minutes, but still be there to help the younger guys and be like, this is what you should work on, or this is like, what you should do, or even just say, like, let's go out for dinner. Well, maybe not dinner, but let's go have lunch together in the room. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
in the common area.
I'm trying to think of like what you can
Just
do in
hang out.
Montreal now. It's like not much. You can't really go to dinner with a friend.
But this is something that could turn into a very good feel-good story for a guy who's nearing the end of his NHL shelf life before he takes off to Europe to finish his career off. I mean, you're right. He can play a very good mentorship role and could be a very good example for the young guys to show them just don't quit.
Mm-hmm. For sure. I mean, like, you look at his backstory about how he came into the NHL. It's not your typical, like, kid who's playing hockey all his life. He started late, didn't he? He started like 11, 12, I think. It's kind of fun. I don't know. I think it would be really fun for him, like you said.
Yeah, he's no Ed Jovanovski starting off at late 12, 13 years old.
Joe Cop.
Man, he never skated before, and he could skate like the wind the second he touched the ice. Bastard.
Should we bring him back too?
I can give him a call.
All right.
There were my skates that he used to go skating.
Oh,
I'd take anybody. Take anybody at this point.
Yeah,
it's just a matter of time where someone else was either going to go down with an injury or COVID. So
that's right.
We may as well have a couple guys on speed dial.
Hey, Eddie, come on back, buddy.
Now that they got DSP, the next call is going to be the Montreal Canadiens have signed Ales Hemsky to.
Oh, just wait for it. He never had his chance.
He was the best Hab to wear number 83.
Yeah.
He's the only one.
Shh.
So is Galchenyuk the next signing? Like, what's going on here?
No, man, he's playing. He's playing now. He's in Arizona for the second best team in the NHL.
Yeah. Do they count as an NHL team?
They got more NHL players than Montreal does right now.
They got Clayton Keller, so they're check.
Yeah, Jacob Chikrin with his minus 30,000.
Yeah. Again, plus minus bad stat to use for a player.
Yeah.
But you know what Montreal is doing? You're minus 30. We want you.
You're minus 30. If you were in Montreal, you'd be minus 35. Yeah, you fit.
Yeah, I mean, why not?
Yeah.
I mean,
He's a fantastic player, though.
he
He
is.
really is. I was
just
able to
got the
see
bad
him
rap.
play a little bit in junior. The kid's he's a fantastic player.
And I honestly, because like everyone's talking about him coming to Montreal to be with his uncle, you know, and that's cool. But will his uncle last? Who knows?
Yeah.
I'm gonna say no. All right. I think that pretty much does it for our show. I mean, we've rambled on for about an hour, a little bit more. So I want to thank everyone for listening. I know we had a bit of a break there, but I mean, it was Christmas, so we all needed a little time to sit with our families and get yelled at and talk to that racist uncle, you know, usual family stuff. Before we sign off, I want to give David a chance to tell you guys where you can find him and his stuff.
So I do write with Habs Eyes on the Prize, though it's been a little bit of a time. I'm starting to write back up also with the Puck Authority. You can find me on Twitter at MTL at the rink, all one word, MTL ATTHERANK.
Give him a follow, guys.
I'm a nice guy, I swear.
It's been great having you on the show. It's been fun having you. We'll get you back on again sometime soon. And congratulations and good luck with the new baby on the way. So
Thank you.
You're going to need it. Trust me, as someone who's got several children of his own. Good luck.
You know what? I can't wait. I honestly cannot wait.
Yeah, I don't.
It was a
blame
pleasure
you.
being with you guys. Seriously, it was a lot of fun.
So again, to our listeners, thank you for listening. And remember, if you were talking about it, so are we.